Hey guys, here on Oral Sessions today, joined by none other, freshly returning back to the Octagon, Miesha Tate. How you doing?
Hey, it's a good Wednesday. Definitely busy. My mom's been in town the past couple weeks, so that kind of eased my transition back, with the announcement. It's just been crazy. Like, it's been really busy, but she leaves today, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, back to two kids on, not on my own. Obviously, I have my partner, Johnny, but, it's a lot easier when mom's here. Like, it really comes full circle. It's like you need mom, when you're little, like my kids are, and then it's like you go through this phase where you don't think you need mom or dad as much, and then bam, you have kids and you're like, oh, thank God.
I am literally going through that exact same thing right now. I'm due in 9 weeks. My mom is coming down from Canada. She's going to be here in like a month, and I'm like, thank God my mom is going to be here to like get my
Right?
life together because I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh my God.
Is this your first baby?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Boy or
Thank
girl?
you. It's a girl.
Girl. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
started with too. So many blessings are headed your way. It's going to be a total, just an amazing experience, lots of work, but it's like, it's just, I don't know, when you just love something that much, it's not really like, you can never truly be mad at the situation. Like, even if you're exhausted or whatever, it's just like, you just get through it.
Do you think it's better or worse to start with a girl? Because I always hear boys are easier, but girls, I mean, I know more girl things. It seems easier to have the girl first.
Yeah, well, that's my only experience. I have a son also, but I'll never have the experience of what it's like to just have a boy first. I think
Yeah.
the only thing that I wish is like the hand-me-downs. Like, there's like barely anything that you can hand down from like a girl to a boy. Like,
Yeah, that's
everything's
true.
so cute and pink and frilly, and I'm like, I can't put this on my son. He does have some pink bibs though that I do stick on him every once in a while, and he doesn't know the difference. But I'm like, don't take any pictures,
Totally.
anybody, please.
And at that point, you're just trying to get by. You're like, this is serving a
Yeah,
function. It is what it is.
exactly.
Yeah,
What
girl
I will
stuff is
say,
amazing.
yeah, I will say my daughter is like a second mommy though. She's very nurturing and she's very helpful. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a benefit there. I just don't know. I hear boys don't have that, they're a bit more rambunctious and kind of active and spontaneous, where I feel like she's very smart, she speaks really well, and she's a little nurturer, so she's
Mhm.
very sweet to her brother and very loving. So I think it works out really
Yeah.
well having a girl first.
That's what I'm banking on. I said that to my husband. I was like, at least, when we have the second one, whenever that happens, she'll be ready. She'll be like a good little assistant.
Exactly.
100%. Actually, you guys train at the same gym. He works out at Extreme Couture as well. How's your training been going?
No, training's been going great. I feel like I've been back at this for longer than I announced, right? Because I wanted to make sure, like, after having my two kids, that I could be on that level again, right? I mean, it's like a serious quest. It's not just like, it's one thing to just say, oh, I want to fight again. It's a whole other ball game to get on that level. So like, I've been going at this for a few months, and I feel like I'm ahead of the curve. And I just went into the UFC Performance Institute, got like my DEXA scan and like all my physical assessments, and they all say like that I'm well ahead of it. And they're like, you're good, like you're already in like the range to make 135, so you're really on track. Yeah, so like I feel really good. Like, I feel like the preparation that I've been doing is definitely paying off. I'm looking to be ahead of the curve and just stay that way. I don't want any tough weight cuts or anything like that. So, I just want to make sure I get down way ahead of time. But I think that's another
Totally.
perspective too that I have now as a mom. It's like I have to plan, where I didn't have to do that as much. I was a way more fly by the seat of my pants in my first part of my career than I think I will be this time.
100%. How have you been feeling since making the announcement? Do you feel like a weight lifted off your shoulders or like this excitement? What's going through your head?
Well, I feel really excited. I feel excited to share this with the rest of the world, because I've been kind of keeping it to myself. And, truly, like, I knew that I wanted to fight again, but I also knew that I had like this list that I had to kind of make sure that I could accomplish these things in order to really be able to commit to it. So at first, I just didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. And of course, there was speculation, but like my gym, like nobody, I didn't tell them, because I didn't want the expectation and I didn't want the pressure. I just wanted to be able to go in and enjoy myself and just see what I could make happen. And once I would realize like, oh, I'm good. Look, I'm really on track for that. I'm ready to commit, 100%. I'm down. And then we made the fight and it got announced like less than 24 hours later. It was like 12 hours later. And then it was just like, man, feels so good. Like everybody is really on board with it, like really supportive. And my teammates had already been kind of telling me for quite some time, like you feel like really strong, like you have mom strength now and you feel really good, like feels like you never left, like so I was already getting some really positive feedback. And I'm honored and kind of humbled that everybody is still so excited about it. I guess it was pretty cool to be well received by the media and by the fans, and to just be able to talk about my goals and ambition publicly.
So two things on that. One, how long had you been sitting on this before you decided to make it public to everybody? And what was on this list that you needed to check off to know that you were able to fully commit to stepping back into the octagon?
Yeah, so I pretty much was really considering, I pretty much made up my mind, I would say in June after I had my son.
Oh, wow. That
I
early.
was locked down. I was in Singapore, mind you. And the pandemic had really shut everything down. So I was, like everybody else, and that kind of forced slow down. But I felt very isolated, and I really started to reevaluate the things that are most important in my life. And obviously family and friends, very important in life. And when you
Mhm.
really realize that, when you move across the world and then a pandemic hits and the borders shut down and the world shuts down, and like you cannot get there and they can't get to you, like it just was like really made me reobserve what is very important. And then um time is an important thing too. Like I felt like time was just kind of like dwindling away for no real purpose at the time, because there was nothing that could be done, right? Nobody was working really. Like I was working for one championship, we weren't able to throw events, like things like that, right? And then the last thing is like dreams and goals, and I just started to reevaluate, what do I really want? I'm 34 years old. um you know and it just hit me. I was just like, yeah, I want to fight again, so I brought it to Johnny's attention, and I just said, what do you think if I want to do this again? Like, and he's like, well, if you really want to, he's like, of course I support you. He's like, but babe, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot because we have the two kids now. So like, I just want you to understand. He's always my rock. He always kind of brings everything back full circle. He puts it in perspective, and he makes sure that I understand like exactly, because I do get a bit like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to, and I kind of get a little bit everywhere. And he's always the one to kind of hone it back in for me and just be like, hey, just,
Mhm.
just keep in mind, but so supportive, the most amazing supportive man. I'm so lucky. I'm like, I don't know what I did to deserve such a great man, but I basically decided in June that I wanted to fight again, but I had just given birth.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, there's a lot I have to do to even get like physically. And also, so to checklist, right? Make sure I'm still physically able to do this. And make sure that I don't get injured coming back. That was a big thing, because I knew my mind would be in one place, but my body would be in another. And I would remember how I would do it, but physically it was going to take me some time to get on that level again.
Right.
And so I had to ease back in and kind of like pull back the reins a lot of times. Of course, there was a little bit of hiccups along the way. Um, and so I had to like do the right things, not get injured, get back into really good shape, and then reassess, like, am I still liking sparring? Do I like going to the gym and getting in those tough rounds? And what is my instinct? Do I fight or do I flight? Like, what is
Mhm.
it? And I'm definitely still fight, like no doubt about it. But a lot of time had gone by. It was a lot of time. It was like 4 years since I had really committed myself to doing that. So like these were things I needed to make sure were still in line with what my vision was and what my goals were. So and then obviously the checkbox of the UFC, like still wanting me to fight,
Mhm.
still making sure my contract was in accordance, and like the pay, and all those things. And weight class, right? Had to pick a weight class. So those were all, yeah, all the things that I needed to make sure were in line with the vision and the goal before I could really commit and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
And now here we are. Now, I mean, to imagine it's only, 3 months away for your matchup to happen. Who have you been keeping an eye on during this 4 years of you being away from the octagon, were you still closely following everything and kind of keeping an eye on what was happening on the scene?
Yeah, of course. A lot of the women. I mean, I'm a big fan of Juliana Pena because we grew up in this sport together. We're both from Washington State. We were training together well before women's MMA was ever thought to be cool. So years ago, like at least a decade ago, but we were training together, and so I've obviously always followed her fights. I've obviously kept up with Amanda, her fights, her being the greatest female, in my opinion. She's the greatest women's fighter of all time. And, just, yeah, any of the female fights. I even really love to keep up with Zhang Wei Li. Like what she's been doing has been, Joanna Jacek, Rose Namajunas, all those women, Valentina Shevchenko. But of course, my division, I always have like a special interest. So I watched the fights and just kind of was quietly, observing them, and not even thinking that I was going to come back. It really wasn't until June that I was like, wow, okay, I think I really want to do this.
Perfect timing too, right? Like right after you have a baby, being like, I think I should go back and start doing this right now.
So crazy, right? But that's exactly, I think I had hit my valley, so to speak. And not that I was like in a sad place necessarily, but like physically, that was like one of the the most I would have to accomplish from that point get back to a high level athlete, right? It's like right after I had my son, I'm like, not only do I have to get back into good physical shape, but I have to recover from birth, right? I have to like have the postpartum period and kind of like go through that segment of just getting back into normal person shape and then accomplish all these other goals and not get hurt along the way. So I think there was that big challenge, and that always seems to motivate me. It always really motivates me to have a lot to have to overcome and accomplish to be able to reach my goal.
Even just like the importance of you taking that time. So, I mean, for you to retire from UFC, retire from fighting 4 or 5 years ago to now you being back in this spot. I mean, it's not this like 6-month window of you realizing where you want to be, but you really needed to take that time for yourself, right?
Right. Yeah, I needed to take the time for myself to, like I said, to really make sure that I'm just not totally crazy, because I can definitely be crazy when it comes to the things that I want to do and accomplish. And I think most people would probably look at me and say, you're crazy right now, but that's fine. Like I'm so used to being underestimated and people trying to put limitations on what they think I'm capable of or what I can accomplish. And there's nothing more motivating, I think, than being underestimated, at least in my opinion. People telling me what they think my ceiling is. It's like, you don't get to dictate that.
You don't know my ceiling?
Exactly. I'm like, I'm the only person that gets to dictate that. So for me, I think that time that I took postpartum to just get back into the gym and recover and do all the things I needed to do, like, I'm really proud of myself because I've come such a long way in a relatively short period of time. And I feel really good about where I'm at. And it just kind of confirmed it going to the PI and seeing all the physical assessments right there. It's science. It's right there in front of me, So a lot of those questions too were just really confirmed that I'm doing all the right things.
Back on track. What are you looking to focus on for Marion Renaud?
Well, let me just talk a little bit about her, right? She is, she's a great fighter. And I think a lot of people will look at her record and just say, oh, she lost her last 4. I don't look at it that way at all. She barely lost her last 4. They've all been very closely contested. She's had draws and split decisions in some of her fights too. And then you look at what she's been able to do in like finishing Sarah McMahon. She hurt her in the striking department and she submitted her in a triangle choke. She's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She also finished Jessica Andrade, which is nearly impossible to do, but also another triangle choke. She's got a really nasty guard game, and she's heavy-handed, and it's like the fights that she has lost, she narrowly lost them. She's been on the verge of being a contender on multiple occasions, and she just barely missed it. And so I look at her and I just say, she's somebody who is a lot better than what her record says.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a bit scary to fight somebody like that, because I don't know if everybody else values her skill set the way that I do and sees her as tough as I see her. And I think she deserves more credit. I think a lot of people are underestimating her. And I don't know if people think that I'm going to win this fight or not. But I think from the outside, right, people look at it and say, oh, Miesha should win this fight, I think. But and of course, I believe I'm going to win this fight, but I'm just saying, I think she's a much tougher fighter than a lot of people give her credit for. And she's never been finished. In all her fights in her whole career, nobody has ever been able to finish her. So she's incredibly durable, and she's got that well-rounded skill set, like where she's just good in every area. She doesn't really have a ton of weaknesses. So granted, she might not be the greatest fighter that ever lived. Like, she's certainly a very game opponent. So I have a lot of respect for her, and I've followed her career for quite some time. And it's kind of cool that it will be her retirement fight. This is her last fight, and I'm coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting storyline. I know she's a teacher too as well. So she's a neat person, and I'm really excited to get in there and mix it up with her. I'm so glad that she wanted the same thing, that she took the fight against me. Cause I don't know, I guess she could have said no, or she could have taken another fight.
And that was a quick turnaround, right? Like, they just kind of floated it her way, and then it was announced without you even knowing that it was confirmed.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Crazy.
So it was really quick, and I'm just grateful. Like, I hope that we both can just stay healthy and get in there and fight July 17th. Like, I feel like that cannot come fast enough.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for July. I'm excited to just get in there, mix it up again. And I think she's a great opponent. But I really believe in myself in the second part of my career. I never had the support system that I have now. And that's, it's my own fault. Like, there's nobody else to blame but me. But I was young, and I was dumb, and I was impressionable. And I thought that it was better I believed, I had been told it was better to let someone else, my ex, like, dictate what happened in my life and my career. It was a very headstrong personality. And it's like, I was 19 years old, when we met and started dating, and I didn't know any different, so I just thought, oh, this is the way that it is. This is the way it was supposed to be. And eventually I just got strong enough to be able to stand up for myself, stand up for the things, like, I just knew it wasn't right. But when you're in the middle of the storm, it's so hard to see the other side. So I just had to really separate myself from that, and separate myself. That kind of meant separate myself from MMA as well too, because I didn't know how to do them both. Like, because he had always been there from the very beginning of my career, very beginning. I mean, literally first day training MMA. So I just didn't know any other way. And now it's like, it's night and day. Like, my partner that I have now, Johnny, he's just incredible. Like, the father of my children. He's all about me. Let me show you. Actually, I took my belt down because we left town this weekend, but I just want to show you this really quick. I'm going to pan over to this wall that my man made for me. I left with the kids for the weekend. He's studying to be an EMT. Long story short, while I was gone, he made this wall here for me. He took all the pictures and tons of fan art, and my belt normally sits up in there, but obviously we put it in a safe place when we're not home. We were gone for Easter weekend. But he put that wall together, and he told me, Miesha, I want you to wake up every morning and see what you did. Like, you did that, and that's what you're capable of.
That just gave me goosebumps. That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a good guy.
Yeah. To see that, he's like, I want you to be your own motivation, and just know that you did that and you're capable. That's what you're capable of. And I just thought, wow. And he's right. Every day I can wake up and be motivated by myself. Like, I used to hang pictures of other people on my walls, and now it's like, wow, I am my own motivation, and I am my biggest competition, and I can do amazing things when I set my mind to it. And I've set my mind to it again. And I'm just very excited. I feel like this is Miesha 2.0, and I will accomplish great things, especially because I don't have the things taking away from me that I did before.
Mm-hmm.
I have so much more perspective and value and greatness in my life already. Fighting is not, let me straighten this out here. Fighting is not everything to me. It is, it's where I have my focus. But I guess sometimes the pressure can be so much if you feel like you have nothing else. And that can be a bad thing. The pressure, when the pressure is like, I have to do this, not I want to do this, there's a very distinct difference. And now I'm in a place in my life where it's like, I want to do this. I want to dedicate, 100% of myself. Where before it was like, I just was so scared to do anything else. I didn't know anything else,
Yeah.
So I've just learned so much about myself. And I think that this is going to be the best version of myself.
I know you've been so open and honest about your past relationship, about the mind space that you were in when you were looking to retire from UFC and from MMA. Was there something that kind of broke the straw that broke the camel's back for you to go, I got to get out of this relationship? Or like just like some advice for people that might be listening that could be in a similar situation and you're in the weeds and you're in the deep end and you don't
Yeah.
see how you're able to get out of a situation like that.
Yeah. So granted, I don't think there's a one size fits all, piece of advice, but what I can tell you from my personal experiences, I was in a really bad place mentally and emotionally. I was definitely suffering from depression.
Mhm.
And it was on and off for years, to be honest. I mean, I think it just really came to a head where I broke. I just mentally and emotionally, I could not handle it anymore. I had, after, you know, 9 years of it, and it just progressively getting worse and worse and worse. Like, nobody can tell you when is the right time to exit a toxic relationship. That has to be something that you decide. But what I will say is that you're stronger than you know. And when you know it's the right time to leave, you will do it. You'll make it happen. And sometimes that means that you have to pack up and run away in the middle of the night. Like, don't beat yourself up for that. If that's how you have to exit, that's how you have to exit. Granted, my relationship was not, I'm sure it's not as bad as some can be. It's not like I was like physically beaten, but I was definitely emotionally and mentally abused, like
Mhm.
without question. He would gaslight a lot. He would do a lot of things to, build me up in the ways he wanted to, just to break me down. I remember distinctly thinking that was, you always do that. You build me up to break me down. Like, you just crush me. You'll say something nice, and then you'll just take it all away. You want me to feel like I can't leave and I can't do it on my own. And he would always tell me, no one will love you as much as I love you. I'm like, that can be a nice thing to say if you mean it like, I love you more than anything. That's a nice
Mhm.
way to say that. But to tell you like, you're not, almost like I'm not worthy of it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I felt like it came. Oh, it was always portrayed to me that I'll never find that anywhere else. Like, I better just stay. And then I tried numerous times. I probably tried for like a good 4 or 5 years before it actually ended. So the latter 50% of the relationship was like me trying to find a way out a lot of the time. And I had an ex uh who committed suicide while we were dating.
Oh
And
my
that was really
gosh.
tough for me. Yeah, really, really hard on me. Granted, we were together even just less than a year. And I think, he had a lot of demons that had nothing to do with our relationship. But
Mhm.
point in case is that when you experience losing someone that way, it is one of the most devastating and difficult things to deal with. And you have a lot of, you feel a lot of guilt. You feel like you should have or could have done more, that you should have recognized the signs, and that you failed that person.
Mhm.
And then moving forward to my relationship with my ex was 9 years long. Every time that I would try to leave, that's what he would threaten.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it was just like, I basically, I think, chose to hurt myself instead of hurt him. I
Mhm.
chose to stay in the toxic relationship and situation as opposed to leaving and hurting him. So it was like a slow death for me.
Mhm.
And
I
finally I
feel
just,
like women do that to themselves a lot though. Women carry so much of that brunt 'cause we're like, we can handle it, we can take it.
yeah.
we absorb so much of that. It's so easy to put that pressure on yourself instead of looking out for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, I don't want to sit here and just say like, oh, the whole relationship was horrible and that, you know, he's this awful person. You know, at the end of the day, I wish him nothing but the best. I just don't want him a part of my life anymore. And I see clearly now the damage that was done at the time. And even though there were all these red flags and, you know, I had been isolated from my family, you know, my parents weren't a part of my life anymore. My family wasn't, because I think it was difficult for them to watch as well. You know, they
Yeah.
knew a lot of the abuse that was going on, and there's nothing that they could say or do to like to make me see it any different. You know, it's just I had to experience it and I had to go through it and I had to get out of it on my own. And I think when you're with somebody who does that to you, it's like they slowly kind of tear apart any support system that you would have to be able to leave.
Yeah.
You know,
Completely isolate
anybody,
you.
yes, anybody who disagrees or sees their true colors or isn't on their side when it comes to it, they want to get those people away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what happened. And that's why it just got to a point where it was so difficult. It was so difficult. Oh my God, it was hard. But I think you asked me the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, it was definitely I would say in huge part to the fight with Amanda. When I had that fight with Amanda, he went to the fights that were the night before. So because it was international fight weekend. So it was like, I think it was Friday and Saturday fights, and mine was Saturday. He went to those fights. He showed up very late to my weight cutting. And he was intoxicated and he smelled like beer. And then he brought a bunch of these random like basketball players with him to like a weight cut, which if you've never done it or never been a part of it, just let me paint a picture really quick. You are it physically in one of the like weakest positions that you've ever been in. You're usually in a full-on sweatsuit. You're laying there, feel like you're half dying, you know, you're trying to sweat out this water weight, you can't drink, you can't eat, and you're just you have to go into another place in your mind to like be able to get through that. And it's not a time when you would want anybody around who may not understand that process, who you don't know, who may judge you, who may not understand that you're not saying hi, you're not being, you know, cordial, any of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just don't want that energy to break your focus. And you're also trying to focus on, okay, winning the fight before the fight, that's the weight cut, but you're also trying to focus on the fight, right? So you just don't want detractors. And that's what I mean is just like, it was always like that. It was always about him. It was never about me. And then I remember I had a really hard weight cut that fight and I barely made it. And then I didn't get like almost any sleep. And the day of the fight, he had organized this, or excuse me, no, it was the day of weigh-ins because we weigh in the morning. I was so exhausted. I just wanted to sleep because I pretty much had no sleep that night. And he had organized this like dinner with like friends and family. And he was like, you have to go to it. You have to. I was like, but I am so exhausted. I can't, you know, and he just like wouldn't let me sleep because he was in the same room. Like he just
Oh
would like,
my
wouldn't like,
God.
so childish, right? Which wouldn't let me sleep. Like, you have to go. I organized all this, you know. I was like, you don't think those people would understand if I said I had a really hard weight cut and I'm just exhausted and I need to sleep, and I need to rehydrate and I need to focus on that. And he was like, no, you have to go, you have to go. So I went or whatever. And it just, those things, like they just add up at the end of the day. It takes too much, you know, too much away from you. And then, so we separated shortly after that. I think it was like a week, like not even a week after that.
Wow.
So yeah, it was, and I did it when I left to go corner one of my best friends, Cindy, because I had tried so many times to break up with him in the way that was like face to face, right? Like the mature way, the way that you feel like this is the way it should be done when you care about somebody. But he would never have it. Like talk about like blocking me in a room, like not letting me exit the room.
Oh my God.
Like that kind of stuff, you know, where it was just like, yeah, it was not okay. Like it wasn't healthy. And so eventually I just did it. I'm not proud of this, but I did it just via a text message and shut my phone off. because
What
I
you gotta
knew
do,
like
yeah.
if I gave an inch, she'd take a mile, you know, and I didn't come home. I just stayed where I was at. And then I did a road trip back and I just kind of shut it off because I knew I needed the time away from that to gain my strength back and find my ground, because I was on such shaky ground, and he knew how to manipulate my heart, manipulate my mind, you know, make me feel like I was a bad person, that I was going to cause him to take his own life, that I was doing things like, you know, that this was a horrible thing for me to do, this was wrong. um and so I just had to shut it off, and I had to like just remove myself from the situation and until I could really stand on my own.
I feel so relieved for you that you were able to find a way to get out of that situation. I mean, and just seeing you now and seeing that you look so bright and energetic and so excited to be back where you are. I mean, talking about Johnny, your partner now, and your children and everything, like it really is an incredible story to hear you having gone through that through the majority of your career to where you're at now. I mean, it's a huge story, I think, for a lot of women around the world. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I hope so. I don't wish any woman to have to go through a situation like that, but I realize it does happen. And I
Mhm.
realize how people who want to control and manipulate your life, your mind, and your heart, I think when you are a loving person, sometimes you just get sucked into that because you truly want what's best for the person that you're with. And you start to just forget about yourself. And yes, I'm very blessed now, and I always will be grateful for the experience because it allows me to really appreciate what I have now. You know, the fact
Fantastic.
that I'm with somebody who is not all about himself. He's much more about supporting me and my dreams and my goals, and how can I help you? What can I do for you? You know, when you wake up and you have somebody who asks you that in the morning, it's like, wow, like that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. So I'm just so grateful for the, you know, for the experience and for the contrast to be able to understand what I have and really appreciate the man that I have by my side. And my mom too, because for the long time, like for the longest time, we didn't have a relationship because of that relationship. You know, he just didn't want it. And so I have rekindled that relationship with my family too. And now my mom's down here helping and doing all these things. It's like I wouldn't have that, you know, if I had stayed.
You must feel so reconnected with yourself. Like
I
just
do.
to get rid of all that toxic energy, reconnect with these relationships, to reconnect with your love of MMA. Like it just seems like all things are firing on all cylinders for you right now.
I would say that's a great way to put it. Yeah, for the first time in my life, things are firing on all cylinders. They're just so many things that I look back at my career and I'm like, how in the hell did you do that for so long? How did I do that? And I didn't think it was taking that much away from me because I would fight and win more times than not anyways. So I
Mhm.
just became used to it. That's like that was how it always was, that it was just going to be that way. And it doesn't matter, Miesha. I would have these internal dialogues. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're depressed now. It doesn't matter like if, you know, if he's been picking fights with you. It doesn't matter if you're crying. It doesn't matter if like he wants to talk over you in every interview and tell you what to say. It doesn't matter. You know, these things, like you just got to show up and fight anyways. None of that matters once the cage door closes. But eventually it got to a point where it mattered. I just was caving in on myself with all the emotional and mental weight that was just like, oh, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I needed to take that time away. And I think if I hadn't, I would be in a much worse place. So I'm
Mhm.
glad now that it's been the 4 years I've been able to really find myself, answer all the questions. Who am I besides a fighter? I have so many things now that I can say that I am, that I can do, that I'm capable of. So I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about nothing. Like I'm just going into this fights because I genuinely want to. I really want to fight. I really want to be the best in the world again. And I know that when push comes to shove, when I set my mind to things, that I can make amazing things happen. So
There's
that's where I'm at.
There's also something I think really special about hitting your stride in like your mid 30s. And I think for women in general, we're usually like, oh, you're over 30, you've already hit your peak, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, that's not true. You hit your mid 30s, and that's when like you've seen things, you know yourself, like, I just feel like that's really when you hit your stride. So it seems like such a cool time for you to come back now and to have this whole Miesha 2.0 version of yourself ready to go. Like, I feel like you're gonna some people up.
That's how I feel too. Amen, sister.
Yes.
I'm
But
gonna
it's, I mean,
shut
it's so
up.
true.
Exactly.
I feel like it's always so like, oh, you're in, you're 30, better, might start be time to hang them up no matter what. I mean, as I shouldn't say no matter what your career is, but whether you're an athlete, you're somebody on
Yeah.
TV, whatever it is, all of a sudden everyone's looking at the clock being like, isn't your time almost up? And it's like, no, man, I'm just getting
Getting
going.
started. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's how I feel. I'm 34. I kind of have a 2-year plan. I think I want to fight for 2 years, and we'll see. At the end of 2 years, I could definitely be ready to wrap this up. I have the 2 kids now. I just feel so much more fulfilled. I don't feel desperate that's like I have to do this and I know nothing else. I know so much more now. So I get to do it for the first time in my life because I want to, not because I have to. So it's a big mindset shift,
Mhm.
way less pressure. I look at it like I'm just going to go out there and I want to be the baddest woman on the planet. And I want to knock out and I want to submit him. And I just want to kill the game. Like I have
Mhm.
so much to give. But if I lost the fight, I still get to go home and kiss my babies. And I still have a wonderful man and amazing parents. And it's not the end of the world. All I can do is give 100% of myself. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to
Yeah.
go in there. I'm going to give 100%. And if it's not enough, then okay, I still have all these amazing things in my life. Like I
Mhm.
feel, how full that makes my heart feel. It just makes me feel like I can do anything. I can move
Yeah.
mountains because I have what's the most important in my life. And they're all supporting what I want, my dreams and goals. And for the first time, I have everybody aligned with me and nothing taken away from myself. So I'm going to give for the first time 100% of myself.
How do you feel about Holly Holm saying she wants to have a rematch?
Oh yeah, I would love it.
Mhm.
Holly's, she's such an inspiration. Talk about a woman who, started in later in the sport. I think she's 38 now and she's just killing it. She's still just up there, just doing amazing things. It's like fighting for world titles still. She's just getting so much better every single fight. So I aspire to be like that. I aspire to get better with age, and
Mhm.
I'm sure we will cross paths again. So there's no doubt about it. I've got 2-year plan, at least 6 fights, and I'm sure Holly will be one of them.
What is your reaction to Dana saying he's still concerned about your nose? He didn't want you to get your nose fixed before you went in to fight Amanda. He saw that as something that got in the way of that match. How do you feel?
Well, Dana's funny. So I text him after because he was wrong in that. He totally remembers that incorrectly. So I had to message him and like screenshot the dates of like when my nose actually got fixed and when I fought Amanda. There was no correlation. I hadn't had my nose fixed when I fought Amanda. Neither did I have it fixed
Ow.
when I fought Raquel. I waited till I was retired. So it was in January of 2017 and I had fought Amanda in July 2016 and then Raquel in November 2016, and I got my nose fixed January 2017.
Mhm.
So I don't know why he thought that, but I don't
False.
know. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why that was in his head, but he's completely misquoted and incorrect. So I fixed it, but no, I've really enjoyed having my nose like somewhat fixed. I've been able to breathe better,
It was like a
but
deviated septum or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
deviated septum. So like wanted to get it where, but you can still hear it. I'm still like nasally. I'm always probably going to have, a not perfect nose. It's not gonna, so, I mean, what does it matter if I break it again? It's not perfect right now as anyways, like I don't breathe that well out of it anyway. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well, and if it breaks again, I'll fix it again.
Exactly. Just we'll go back and get it
Yeah,
fixed one more time. No big deal. No big deal
exactly.
at all. Okay, so your time away from the octagon when you were being an analyst for Fox, stepping into commentary, how did you enjoy being in those roles?
So it was a lot of fun. It was definitely challenging. I think the things that I didn't like is that it took so long to do hair and makeup. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
Right? I'm
Oh,
just not that way. I just a waste of my time. I'm
yeah.
like, do I really have to do this? Like, do we really have to spend 3 hours on hair and makeup right now?
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't appreciate that. There were really long, like 12-hour days,
It's
12
a
to
lot of
14.
work because you're sitting in
Yeah.
hair and makeup, but you're trying to go over your notes and trying to get ready for the
Yeah.
show. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, get out of my face.
I know. And the guy's going to walk in like 3 hours later and they're like, okay, you're ready.
It's such
I
bull.
hate you guys. I hate
The
so
worst.
there were like 12 to 14-hour days a lot of times when I would like come do the pre and post show with Fox, and long, really, really long days. So I don't miss the hours, but it was a lot of fun to do the shows. I loved it while, when it was taking place and we were talking about fights or breaking things down, and interviewing the fighters afterwards, watching the fights. I loved it. I loved all of that. I just wish there was a way to like, do we have to wear it? Like, would I really have to wear all this makeup? Do I really, my hair, can we just put it in a bun?
I know.
Can I
I
just
feel
wear
like
a hat? That's what I do when I don't want to do my hair. So
same. I'm the exact same. I used to drive our makeup team crazy because I'd be like this moving object. I'm like, listen, just give me a little concealer and like a lipstick. It's fine. But
yeah,
it's just it's a pain in the ass, but comes with the gig, I guess.
it,
So
it does. It
annoying.
comes with the
Yeah.
territory. So can't complain too much. I did really enjoy the job itself, but that's the only thing I can say was like really long days, really long days.
Yeah. What other growth do you want to see come to the sport? I mean, to UFC, to MMA, what kind of growth in the women's division? How do you see that kind of progressing in the next couple of years?
Well, I'd like just more women, but I think we're going to get that. I think women are seeing this sport, and they have been for a long time now, and realizing that this is not just, MMA, mixed martial arts, whatever form you want to train of it, that it's not just for boys anymore. Wrestling's not just for boys. Kickboxing's not just for boys. Like, all these young ladies are kind of changing what used to be. I used to walk into the gym and I would see a kids class and be lucky to see one girl. Now I would say like oftentimes it's 30 to 40% of the kids classes are girls. And you walk into maybe a beginning level kickboxing class or something like that, and I'll be surprised now to not see at least one female, if not more, if not three,
Yeah.
4, 5. So I guess it's just not uncommon anymore, when it really was. When I first started, it was very uncommon to see any girls or women participating in any form of martial art. So, I just think, again, it just takes time for these girls and, women to have enough time training the sport and transition into being fighters. But you see it happening. There's younger and younger women getting into it that have been watching the women do it for years now. So I think it's just time, really. I don't think there's any other answer other than time and opportunity. Now we have opportunity, so we just need the time for the women to continue to develop and more to transition into the sport.
How is it? I mean, I'm just curious of this coming from the world of WWE, where we've just had this huge women's evolution. We have women on the marquee. They've main evented WrestleMania and pay-per-views and whatnot. But it's been this slow build to finally getting to that spot. Does it feel like that in UFC for the female fighters to be looking to get that big spotlight and to be getting those big paydays and to really be getting the respect they deserve from within?
I feel like it was a really, really slow climb until the UFC took over, to be honest, which was in 2013, if I'm remembering correctly, is when the first women's MMA fight was in the UFC. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due, because it all really started with Bodog and Hook and Shoot. Jeff Osborne, he was the first one to really take women's MMA and say, hey, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to make women's tournaments. I'm going to do all this. Then that kind of evolved into Strikeforce, and then Strikeforce with Scott Coker, who's now obviously a Bellator president. He took it to the next level and said, I'm going to put a women's main event over the men on Showtime. And it was never been done before. So it was Gina Carano and Chris Cyborg, and it was huge. The numbers blew all the previous events out of the water. And it just showed like there is genuine interest here. Women can fight, women can be entertaining, and people enjoy watching women kick ass. And then then it was still Dana was like, no, women will never fight in the UFC. And it was just, it was that desire to want to have the opportunity to fight alongside and with and be the very best wasn't there yet. So it was actually my first fight with Ronda in Strikeforce that changed his mind. So he watched that fight and he said, wow, I think there's something here. I think this is different than what he thought it was. So with that being said, that was the fight that kind of made him change his mind to want to bring women into the UFC. And then after that, we got into the UFC, and I feel like we kind of hit the ground running in the UFC. I don't feel like it was a slow start. I feel like it had been highly anticipated for quite some time. And I think maybe he even waited too long. I think women could have been in the UFC before that. But when we did finally get into the UFC, it was like we definitely came in with a bang.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the roster now and looking at what the lineups are, it's like when you go to UFC events or you're watching the pay-per-views on TV, it's like those marquee matchups really do involve a lot of the women through and through. So it's really cool to see you guys have that spot and just be crushing it. Dana must be pumped to have you back in UFC. I listened to you on Ariel Helwani's podcast, and you were saying you reached out to him on Instagram. You were like DMing him and texting him and trying to get a hold of him. And he was kind of dragging his feet on finally getting back to you. When he was not getting back to you, were you kind of going through your head of like, where else am I going to go fight if I'm going to go do this?
Yeah, I was like, well, you have two options. I'm telling you I want to fight. So either let me fight or let me out of my contract. You know?
Yeah.
And that's really what I thought. I was like, let me fight or let me out of my contract. And he kind of just blew me off like the first, I would say like 5 messages. He just read them. I sent them on Instagram on purpose because I wanted to see like if he's reading them or not. Of course, I see the little like scene mark there. It's like every time I was like, what? Why is he not responding to that? Telling him I want to fight. So finally, when I moved back, he did respond. Sorry, after eventually like me heckling him, and I was like, look, I want to know before I uproot my family out of Singapore and move back to the US. Like that's what I want to do, but I'm not going to do that unless I think that I have a place with the UFC to fight. You do own my contract. And then he wrote, come home. So that was, just knowing Dana, having known him for years now, that was him basically saying, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have a home with us, but you got to make the leap, show me that this is not just, you're just talking or whatever. So he said, come home. So I was like, okay. So like we moved the whole family back in September, and I was training from that point on, and I went to meet up with Dana, I think maybe in October or so, maybe might have even been November, but I wanted to sit down with him and have that conversation and explain to him exactly where I was at with everything. And then again, it was kind of like, okay, all right. He was like, it's like, well, I'm not leaving this office until you tell me, like, are you leaning towards yes or no? What is it? He's like, he kind of laughed. He's like, I'm leaning towards yes. I was like, that's all I needed to hear.
Great.
He's like, I'm going to go straight to the gym. I was pumped. So, and I think he wanted to make sure I wasn't desperate, that I wasn't coming back as like a washed up Miesha Tate that desperate to support her family, and I'm going to go out there and get my nose shattered. You know what I mean? Like, right. I think he really wanted to know that I was genuinely passionate about coming back and fighting. So we had a discussion about which weight class. And I said, is it going to, 145 or 135? I was like, I can do either. But I was like, at the time, I told him, I was like, I probably prefer 145 because then I just wouldn't have to cut weight. Mind you, I'm still breastfeeding my son. So
oh my gosh, girl. Wait, when do you have to stop breastfeeding? Or do you have to stop breastfeeding him before you fight? How does that? I have not gotten to the breastfeeding stage yet, so I don't have a clue how it works yet.
Yeah, so I want to breastfeed for a year, which will be mid-June, will be 1 year. Okay. So anytime after that, I'm kind of okay with stopping. So I imagine when I go into quarantine, that'll kind of be it, because we go in, I think, 4 days before the fight on Tuesday, and I think the fight's on Saturday. I think that's when you have to go in. So I imagine I'll just kind of let the milk just stop,
Isn't it super painful to do that?
Can be if you're producing a lot of milk, but my milk supply has already started to taper down. He doesn't
Okay.
need it as much.
Okay.
So I think by that point, you know, I'll slowly start to wean him, and then it won't be your milk supply. Your body has been sending signals to slow down, pump the brakes for quite some time. So I think it will be okay. Yeah, so I think that'll probably be the end of the breastfeeding. But so I told him, I was like, well, if I'm gonna fight, you know, before June or around June, I'm still breastfeeding. So I want to make sure like I'm not having to cut weight and have that kind of be counterproductive. So anyways, I said probably 145, and he also agreed. He's like, yeah, probably 145. He's like, but you know, 145 is a rematch with Amanda. I'm like, so is 135.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I was like, I'm getting to her either way. You realize this, right? Like if it's 145 or 135, like that's the goal. I will get to her and I will fight her again. And then he kind of laughed, and I was like, okay, so we're good. It's probably 145. So then I just, you know, but now obviously we just redecided, because they let Megan Anderson go, and Amanda's coming back down to defend her title at 135 again. So right now there's only like 2 other women in the division, and I just didn't like the idea of being stuck in a division that potentially wouldn't have options or many fights for me.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'll just do 135. I'll just be very diligent about my diet. And now I have my thyroid in check too, which is, I didn't know that I was suffering from hypothyroidism for my last few fights. Like I struggled to make the weight with Holly. I really struggled to make it with Amanda, even worse. And I was dieting so hard. I was so calorie like low, really tough training camps, but the weight wasn't coming off, was not coming off. So I didn't understand what the hell was going on. And then I got it tested, and I'm like, oh yeah. So I was like, something's wrong. I was like, there's no way that I should not be losing weight. I am training my ass off. I'm eating like a rabbit. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what is going on right now?
Do they put you on medication for that?
They did.
Yeah.
So now I have like a thyroid medication that I take, and everything's good. Weight, you know, comes off easily. Just doing the normal right things. And so it won't be a problem for me moving. I had that Raquel Pennington fight, and that was not a hard weight cut, because then I had already figured out the thyroid problem. So it was good. Easy enough.
Great. All right. Well, we're all very excited to see you step back into the octagon. Everyone, I mean, as soon as it was announced, people were like, oh my God, so excited to see this. One other thing that I wanted to talk to you about before I let you go, just out of mere mom curiosity, because you gave birth in Singapore, right?
Yeah, I did.
Was the birth process very different there than it is in the US?
Yeah. Yes. So mind you, my experience also is combined with a pandemic, was just craziness everywhere. So my mom was supposed to be out there for the birth. She wasn't able to come. Borders had shut down. Then I was worried that they were going to lock the hospitals down, in that like the father couldn't even be present. So real quick, let me try to give you this in a nutshell, because I know I'm long-winded, but I was supposed to have my daughter, I was supposed to do a home birth for my first birth. So I had gotten a midwife and a doula and all the things. And I had this mindset, I'm tough, I'm a fighter, mental toughness is my strength, I will get through whatever. Totally wrong approach. I did not do the right things to prepare for birth. Birth is like, it's a marathon, and it's something that you have to be in a very, not a fighter type mindset. You have to be in like a more passive type, like letting your body take charge, being less mentally present, just staying in a good place. Right. And I ended up fighting fire with fire, like you would in a fight. And so I fought myself, and I prolonged my labor for like 3 days, not realizing I had a 3-day labor, and it was really bad. It was very intense, and it was just like it was not a very good experience. And I thought, never again. I went to the hospital. I got the epidural because, you know, I couldn't eat, drink, couldn't keep nothing down. Still wasn't progressing. Just goes to show how strong your mind can be when you fight yourself on it. God, I wish I had known what I knew for my second birth. So second birth, I totally went about it the other way around. I did yoga. I did hypnobirthing. I did meditating. Like I did everything. I meditated every day. I did all these great things. And then we were supposed to go to the hospital for that birth because I'm like, look, they didn't, weren't even allowing people to come over to like be midwives and things like that and doulas. And that's not even a very prevalent concept to begin with in Singapore. So we were supposed to go to the hospital. I was in such a good place mentally by the time that the birth started that my body just reacted. I was like, I felt like I was high almost. Like I swear to God, euphoric. Like between my contractions, we call them surges. I was producing so many endorphins, which is a natural pain blocker. So like by science, this is scientific. You produce those endorphins and it gives the receiving docs are taken up by the endorphins, right? So the pain can't make the connection. It's really important that you're in a good headspace. So I was like, babe, I think we need to go to the hospital. I'm feeling like pretty, and this happened like within an hour and a half span. Like, I don't feel like I can, we need to go. So he starts, running around, getting all this stuff together. Then between each contraction, he would come and he would give me like the soft touch, the soft tickles to help me get the endorphins right. and then I got to a point I was like, I cannot walk. I was like, I can't go anywhere. We're not leaving. And I ended up having him in the bathroom at home.
Just the two of you?
Just the two of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it was incredible. It was like the most amazing experience. And I was so proud of myself to be able to do it, because the first time in my opinion, I failed, and I thought like, I will never try that again because that was just too much. Like, I don't know how women do it. Then I really busted my butt to be prepared for it in a different way and go into a relaxed state. It was incredible. It was the best thing. Like, nobody should ever fear natural childbirth. Like, if you want to try it or whatever, like, you can, the mind is amazing. It can do amazing things. So I've had both experiences. And it was incredible. Just the two of us. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. So will you have the baby at home? And then like, did you guys just like cut the umbilical cord and do all that stuff all on your own?
No. So we went to the hospital to deliver the placenta. So after the baby was born, we just like wrapped up in towels and we went to the hospital, and I was able to move like immediately, like get up and walk, and I was okay. It was just such an incredible experience.
That's wild. Wow. Well, good for you. Damn, get it, girl. All things Miesha Tate. Things are working out for you right now. This past year has been like, you're doing it. Well, Miesha, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really enjoy getting to catch up with you, and just so cool to see you in such an amazing headspace as you're heading into this matchup coming up in July. Again, we're all so excited to see this. And just really happy for you.
Thank you so much. I'm over the moon with excitement, and I can't wait to deliver an epic performance on July 17th and just set those dreams in motion. So the day can't come soon enough. I'm excited to release Miesha 2.0.
Hell yeah. Time to break some.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to watching the fight.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye.